Hi, welcome back to Grit Gym. I'm Adam Reese, and today what I'm going to attempt to cover is the continuum between absolute strength and absolute speed. And I have a chart up here to try to demo what I'm talking about. Absolute speed would be our slower movements, okay, where our muscles are tense and our weights are heavy. Absolute speed would be our very light movements more, because mostly the weight that you're going to use is your own body weight. These are your sprints and your plyos. This is where muscles are more relaxed and they're very fast and it's very light. Okay, and there's a distance between here, and program design is basically based off of this chart. Okay, so at the top here would be absolute strength. This is where our deadlifts, our squats, our bench presses work, and it's our heavier weights. It's where we're going to move weights a little bit slower. At the bottom is where we're going to do our medicine ball work and our sprints and our plyos, so jumping up and down. And basically, all strength conditioning can be summed up pretty well. And then if you wanted to create a strength conditioning program, you lift heavy weights slow, you lift light weights fast, and you jump up and down and you run. That's basically how strength conditioning programs work, but they get a little bit more complicated than that, especially when with the amount of dollars that are thrown around for these multi-million-dollar athletes. But the idea is with spectrums is that if we master both ends of the spectrum, then we've mastered everything in between. Okay? Now, to bridge the gap is necessary. Okay, because we can't just sit up here and do heavy weights all day long, and we can't just sit down here and do sprints and plyos all day long. It's not going to work out. And during different portions of the year, this is going to change too. For instance, for a youth athlete, and really any athlete, in season, so like for a high school kid, even a college age kid, even professional level athletes, during season, they're going to live towards the absolute speed end of the spectrum, okay? They're out there running around, they're playing their sports, okay? So they're running and they're jumping all the time, okay? So they're doing fast movements all day long. So they need to work back towards the absolute strength end of the spectrum. So they need to be, in their training and outside of their competition and their practice and their workouts, they need to be doing heavier, not necessarily super heavy, but they need to be moving weight slower, more controlled, more towards the absolute strength end of the spectrum, and less towards the absolute speed end of the spectrum, because they already get enough of that in their play and in their practice. Okay, but postseason things change a little bit. Okay, because postseason they're getting out of, they're not running around all the time, so they get about a month or two postseason that their bodies are going to be recovering from their season. This is where we're going to start to add in more of the in-between stuff. And the in-between stuff would be like speed pulls with deadlifts, where we're pulling maybe like somewhere between 40 and 60% of our 1 rep max. You can do the same thing with your squat, you can do the same thing with your bench, and you program those in at certain portions during the month. This is also where kettlebells would be in, somewhere in here. A little further down, more towards the absolute speed of the spectrum, would be medicine balls. But post-season, we're going to be working more towards that middle to upper level of the absolute strength in the spectrum, because they just spent so much time throughout their season down here. Now we're going to work more in, but we're going to come down here, we're going to add some kettlebells and some speed pulls and some different things like that. Now when you get into off-season, things change, okay? So off-season, they need to have a balance here. So we can start working on absolute speed, and we can start working on absolute strength, and then we bridge the gap in between with some kettlebells and some speed work, okay? But pre-season, then we're going to be working more towards the absolute speed end of the spectrum, because that's their need, okay? That's what they need to be working towards. Now with baseball players, this changes a little bit, especially pitchers, because of arm care. Pre-season baseball pitchers especially are going to start throwing a lot more. So they already have gotten into more towards their absolute speed end of the spectrum, okay? So medicine ball work isn't going to be exactly something high on their list. That doesn't say that you couldn't do a lot of medicine ball work on the opposing side. So a right-handed pitcher might do a bunch of shot puts on his left hand to kind of balance out what he's doing with a unilateral movement. But he's going to, towards the end of his off-season, so pre-season, they're going to spend a little bit more time towards the absolute speed end of the spectrum. And all other sports, this is going to be pretty basic. Everybody's going to move towards this. Okay, you're still going to balance this out, but you're going to move towards this. So you get back in the season, and then you move more towards up here, and you bridge the gap between.